while we're waiting, I'll go ahead and make an introduction. I'm a new face for a few of you. Here we go. A new face for a few of you, and I am filling in for Josh, or I should say, I'm doing my part on the customer success side with leading this meeting today on the mobile app. Real quick, my name is Coitt Kessler. I am almost completely done with the Austin Fire Department. After 21 and a half years, I am coming off the job. I'm writing out my time with a knee replacement right now, so I'm almost there. On the 18th, it's official. I will be completely separated from the fire department. In the last 8 years of that, I've run as the program manager for our robotics program. It's called the Red Team, and it stands for Robotic Emergency Deployment. There's been 35 of us that are RPICs that tie in. You guys heard me mention Chris Lester. It's one of my homies from the city. Chris and his team are on EMS, and then we have Austin PD, and then Travis County, and then so we all kind of work together as a big unit, and then tie into state operations. So that's a little bit about my background, and with that, let's jump into the mobile app. All right, this is what, when we're talking about the mobile app, we're talking about what the pilot side of our experience should be. As a pilot, when you guys sign into DroneSense, this should be the first screen after your pin that you guys end up seeing. And with that, you should end up having your missions that you've created. So this is just within our DroneSense CS team. These are some of the missions that we fly under. And you should have a plus button here, which allows you to add mission codes. And I'm working off an iPad today. So as I just press that icon on the top, you'll see that there's an area for you to enter your 6-digit mission code. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. But that is where you'll enter a mission code so you can join your partners on scene, and everybody can fly together underneath one mission. The right side of this is going to just be basic information, your weather, your time, and it's going to should be helpful if you're trying to make a decision on go or no go flights. It couldn't be any simpler as if you pick the op that you want to work from. So today we're going to be doing under training ops. It will then the next screen that will come up will say, hey, this is the mission you selected, and provide you a little further information that might be important. So within this screen, this allows you to change your icons. So if I wanted to be anything other than a drone, this is where I would have the opportunity to do that. This is very important whenever we're talking about using the MSAT, the mobile streaming functionality of our platform. So if you guys are going out with your iOS devices, Androids, and your phones, your tablets, you're doing any searches, then that's the screen that you'd want to engage in and grab an icon that might be relative to what you're doing on scene. This is the one that whenever we load up our manned aircraft, we'll put a smart device, a tablet in the or a phone inside the helicopter, and this is how we were able to interoperate, as you guys, many of you have seen on scene with the mobile streaming app. Alrighty, we're going to jump right into joining the mission. This is going to be kind of high level because I know that I recognize a lot of your faces and names. There's a few of you that I don't, and I want to make sure that we're addressing everybody here with this session. The pilot app is the experience or the user interface that you would end up having if you were, no matter what aircraft you're flying. So if it's an Autel, if it's an ANAFI, if it's DJI or any other aircraft that DroneSense will end up supporting in the future, this is the user interface that you will operate off of. And that's really important to note. Having all these different aircraft out there, we had a lot of requests for certain functionality within those systems and for like specific requests. And we really have to as a team work through what those requests look like in order to make sure that this interface still stays the same for you. So if you're coming off of a long shift and you're trying to remember if you're flying orange or gray, meaning an autel or a DJI, then we want your experience to feel the same and for it to be very easy here. So bottom right hand corner is the map feature that we have, and I've preloaded a map layer that we'll discuss here in a second. You have on your lower right, if you guys are trying to find your base layer maps, this is the location that you'll end up finding it at. One of the things that we do have now, and if you haven't practiced with it, is the ability to cache your maps. And what I mean by that is, well, as an example, we have a lot of remote area here in the state of Texas that we're data denied. We get out, and if you're with AT&T, Verizon's strong. If you're with Sprint, then AT&T is the one that you need to have. And if you don't have that data, what you need to do, and you know you're going into a particular area, is go ahead and cache this map. Now, the map caching is currently available, I believe, only on the iOS side of things. We are working on getting it brought into Android, but it is not a feature that we're able to support yet with Android. But it's really simple. You would basically just go out and take it's not really a screenshot, but you would grab an area that you believe that you may be operating in and come down and hit cache layer. And when you hit cache layer, it's going to begin downloading that layer or that area that you've taken. I'm going to just cancel that. We don't need it. And you'll have that as a base layer map for you to be able to operate from. So that, again, that's really great for our data denied areas. Post disaster, if you guys are working in an area where maybe you're next to a cow, where you can grab some data before you go out in the field, upload your maps there. And then, so cache them, upload them, and you'll have an area or a way to operate from. The other quick features that we have here is everybody, I think, is pretty well aware of. If I move away from my map and I'm looking for a feature in another part of the area or another part of the this area of operation, if I hit that scope, it's always going to bring me right back to where we started from. So remember that if you guys are late at night and you're trying to figure out where your aircraft is at or where your home point was at, go back and hit that scope feature. It will the site will bring you right back to where you started from. That's about it on the map side. Everybody wants to know what this lock means. Not exciting, but I would say important. When I turn the lock feature on, it allows me to move and all I'm doing is I'm sliding my screen here, and it just pulls me right back into the area my drone's located at, so I won't lose my position on the map. So I'm just going to head and click off of that. It's really great at times, and it can be annoying at others. So I'm going to click off of that, and we're going to work our way around the interface here. So what all of you should know, but maybe not everybody's using, is you have the above ground limit, the height above terrain for your height, which looks just like your Autel and your DJI or Anafi interfaces. But if you touch this and you slide it, you're going to get to MSL. And MSL, if you're familiar with working with any manned aircraft operations, you'll recognize or value how important it is to have MSL. So if you're working with manned aircraft, that is a must-have for working alongside of manned aircraft. Now, we in the Austin area work very, very closely with state, local, and regional manned air resources, and everybody has a different take on that. So the only thing I can say is make sure that you practice the way you play, you get out ahead of time, and you have those talks with your manned aircraft and ensure that is the communication they would like to have with you when you're speaking specifically about altitudes. The speed, nothing too exciting there. Artificial horizon is very important. So that is our attitude indicator for our drones. So as you guys are flying, I know you've seen that pitch of your roll of the artificial horizon, which is really just showing you what's happening to your drone in space, right? In the air. And you may ask, well, why is that valuable to us? Well, if you're flying in a windy area, and let's say you've gone out, and I'm going to speak from experience, you've gone out with a tailwind, which means you're flying really fast. The aircraft's got a good push behind it. And then you stay on station a little bit too long, and you look up at your batteries and you realize that it is time for me to come home. And now you got to come into a headwind. That attitude indicator is going to be very, very important for you going out and coming back in. And it'll give you an idea of what, where you're at and what is going to need to get you back into to the right area to land safely with your battery. So again, this artificial horizon is incredibly valuable if you really work with it. You also have cardinal directions with the compass. So if you're familiar with working with ground teams, any SAR groups, cardinal directions mean a lot. So being able to use your compass on this system and being able to provide information in degrees is something that's pretty great from either communicating down or from the guys on the ground communicating up to you. Just to the left of that is one of my favorite little icons, and that is the find me whenever it is late at night and I can't see my drone feature. If you are operating beyond line of sight, so let's say you're on the other side of a large set of trees, the other side of a commercial building, if you are anywhere away from your drone and you need to get that drone back, you can yaw your aircraft, meaning just turning your aircraft right or left, and yawing your aircraft and aligning this icon with a person, and that will bring your aircraft back to you. One of the drills that we work with during our initial RPIT class and then ongoing CEs is how to get yourself back to your home location. So not only is it super valuable to be able to look here, but then recognize where your home location is and being able to drive your aircraft back home off your map. Street lights, and neighborhoods all start looking the same at night. If you guys are working in some of the backcountry, you have no reference other than your maps of where you're going, or maybe some lights in the distance. This is a very important tool for you guys. So remember, you have a return to home, you have your home indicator, and you'll have your reference point here to be able to get your aircraft back to you. And this one to the left, everybody's asking, well, hey, why is that important? Well, that's just where your remote is in reference to your aircraft. Gimbal angles, if you're doing any forensic work, that may be important to be able to report back where your gimbal angle was at, or get a reference from maybe where you're at in relationship to something with height or building. So that's what we have on the left of the screen there. As we work our way up to the right, this is where I get super nerdy, and I like to really have a lot of fun here, is our markers. Now, we have not been able to enable all of the markers or enable these markers for all of our systems yet. Now, it's coming. We are working as hard as we can, but as soon as we start working on one feature, man, another drone comes out and we're trying to play catch up. So understanding that you're unable to drop these markers on your Android devices, if you're using an iOS device, this works really well. So being able to take these markers and drop them on areas of interest. So I like to pick on my neighbor here. This is probably actually accurate. I like to pick an explosion hazard and drop it on the top of his house. And you'll see, that actually might be true, that this icon popped on top of his home. Anybody that is flying within this particular mission, which is the DroneSense training mission right now, or if you guys are flying in your own missions and you're flying underneath DroneSense, they will see these markers that you have dropped off. Not only will they see them here, but they'll also see them back in the website of the our application. So being able to call in at the EOC and say, hey, listen, I just found a target I need to investigate. Command, I'll be looking at this explosion hazard over off of blah, blah, blah address. This is what will end up showing up on the EOC screen and alongside with all of your pilots. So you can begin working as, the mission specialist and start assigning jobs to different aircraft just by dropping markers. Now, one of the really cool features that we have within our app, because this was designed with us with public safety in mind, is what do we do once we find these areas of location and things that we want to drop? So I dropped a helibase or a landing zone here. So this would be where our aircraft would be taking off from. I've got 2 aircraft in this mission right now that are on my screen. But if I want to get this aircraft over to this point of interest, I have some autonomy or autonomous features that will allow that to happen. So if I come over and I grab this waypoint feature that's right here, I'm going to tag that, and I'm just going to put my finger on the screen. Now, it's really important, guys, whenever you're thinking about these waypoints, is that you don't get hung up on where you put it on the screen, because I'm going to touch this with my finger, and you'll see that I can move it around. Now, as I'm moving around, look over here to the left-hand side and look at your coordinates. So that's important for you to note. And the reason it's important for you to note is because you can then come in, let's say dispatch has triangulated the last known location of a cell phone call. You can then come in once this is dropped, this pin has been dropped essentially, and you can come in and physically manipulate the Latin long with your keyboard. Oh, excuse me. So I have it here. Forgot I was using an additional keyboard. So I am going to just type in some different numbers, and it would end up sending my drone to that particular location, right? So again, you just come in and you can physically manipulate these coordinates, and the drone will end up flying to this waypoint. What you need to note, and this is important, is that you have some preset numbers here. You have speed and you have altitude. You can adjust these with your fingers. This is just presets. So I'm just pulling this back and forth with my finger. Or you can adjust while you're flying with your sticks. So if you're flying and let's say you come up to an area that has high transmission power lines, which are noted here in the yellow, and you guys are in an area that you need to grab some altitude, then of course you would take your left stick and you would throttle up and your aircraft would climb, and it would allow you to do that even though that was preloaded at 150 feet for your launch. The next thing that's important to note is that this little arrow here, and this is what some people they end up missing. This is kind of this is the Burger King arrow for me, is you get the burger the way you want it if you click on this little tab. So I'm going to click on that tab, and you can see that it now gives me an opportunity to plan either flying to this waypoint and then going to another waypoint, or flying to this waypoint and then keeping eyes on this particular point of interest. So I've got my neighbor here that I want to fly over and make sure that the explosion that I literally heard this weekend wasn't going to happen again. I can post that over the top of it, and I have hover. And if I follow if I follow my excuse me here real quick, if I follow the 3 quick steps, my drone is going to fly over here and then just hover while I've got eyes on, and then I can use my gimbal and I can use my zoom and my thermal capabilities. And the steps are super simple whenever you're using any 3 of these intelligent flight plannings. All you do is you come down and you tap add to plan, and you'll see that there's an arrow or a play button that pops up. You're going to hit the play button, and then you're going to come down and you're going to hit go now. And as soon as I hit go now, this aircraft's going to climb to that pre-designated altitude, and it's going to fly over, and it's just going to hover. And it's going to hover there until it hits low battery. And then for our aircraft, I have it returning back to home. That is as simple as it gets. And it is incredibly efficient. It makes it super easy. One of the things I'd like to stress to you, though, is that if you guys are working in areas of operation where you have some really different topography, which we do here in Austin, is be very cognizant when you preload that aircraft. Let's say you have it taking off at 150 feet, that when you're flying and you're not depending on that aircraft's obstacle avoidance to get you over the hill that you're about to hit, or the hill that has high transmission power lines on it. Make sure that you always have your fingers on the sticks and that you guys are able to look to your camera and visualize what the aircraft is doing. It's going to get to that lat and long that you set, but you need to ensure that it gets there safely. And that only can be done with situational awareness that you get through using your camera feed and understanding the area of operation that you're working in. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this out, and we're going to go to orbits. And the way I cancel that, you saw I hit cancel. I'm going to tap on this screen here, and it's going to give me a garbage can, an information icon, and an arrow to move it again. While we're here, I'm going to show you what that information is. So when I mentioned that we work a lot with manned aircraft, this is the lat and long, the coordinates that we're able to provide our not only our aircraft, but if we have the ground pounders that are operating out there. Let's say we've flown to the area that dispatch provided the cords for. We have flown to that area, and then we can provide that location back to incident command, the manned aircraft that's coming to do a hoist, the ground troops are running out there with the big wheel and the stretcher to take somebody away. We can do all that by providing this information that is found here underneath that eye. So that's very important. You can copy this, and with this iOS device, it's super simple. I copy, I paste it into a message, and then I can just text that message to somebody, text it to my entire SAR team. So that copy of information will also be very handy if you guys are trying to share information with the teams on the ground or that are flying in. Orbits. I'm going to tap on my orbits screen. This is another one of my faves. And I am going to drop an orbit over my neighbor's home. I'd like to be able to see what is going on here. And you can adjust this orbit with your fingers. So it's just taking the screen here and just moving it in and out. And I'm just doing this with my finger. And I can adjust this orbit in and out with my finger here. You'll see that this has the lat and long on it. You've got the little Burger King menu here that shows you get to tell the computer the way you want it. And by hitting that camera action, this allows me to either have my camera pointed inward, outward, fly along the path, which means just going around in the circle, or manually being able to operate it. Well, I don't know really why we have manual, because it really is all manual. As you load this up, guys, and if you're flying nose in, so your nose is pointed in on this particular target, you can take your aircraft, and I mean, you're the one that operates it, and you yaw it right or left, and the camera will move with you. If you need to climb an altitude, left stick up. If you need to move your radius, you right stick out. You got to bring your radius in, left stick or right stick in. So the programming here still allows you all the flexibility. This is just the preloaded way we have it operated. And a lot of people ask, well, hey, why would you fly with your camera out? Well, flying inward might be really good if I have a point of interest inside an area of operation. So we want to see what's going on 360 of this building. But let's change this up and say this ends up becoming a command post, and we want to fly out camera outward facing, so we can see what's going on with the crowd that's just outside of our command post. So let's say Austin, Texas, we have these really large music events, F1, and we want to see what's going on with the crowd. We would just put that orbit right over the top of our command post, let the drone operate, and in the most efficient manner that it can, and that is in an orbit, and it will fly with the camera outside. So then we get a 360 in the outside perimeter of our command post. And that also, like I say, is very important, especially when operating at these large venues with lots of people. So that's all there really is on that. The workflow, we're going to go over this again and again, is very simple. It's add to plan. It's come up and hit the play button. And then you're going to go now, and it is going to execute the commands that you just gave it. I'm going to go ahead and cancel it. I'm going to come into the top here and erase it. And the last feature we're going to have is going to be this mapping feature or flight planning feature. So being a firefighter, we see a lot of areas that get burned. Wildland urban interface, brush alarms, areas that we need to capture for after action reviews. We could take this and say, hey, listen, we have a homicide scene, a crime scene that we need to investigate. We want high-res images on that. We can say we have a missing Alzheimer's patient, a child, and we want a high-res map to be able to take images and then be able to review each of those images and look for the patient that may have blue jeans, white shoes, and a red shirt. In order to do that, we've learned that video is not the best way of looking for things, right? It's taking images and then reviewing those images to be able to see what exactly it is that you're looking for. And obviously, if it's for a post-incident review or an after-action review, or if you guys are working with investigations, you're going to want to be able to use the mapping feature. And it's really simple. All I'm going to do is click on this map feature here with my finger. I'm going to drop a map onto the screen. Do that again. There you go. And I'm going to map this particular area here. All I'm doing is dragging those plus and minuses. I'm going to stay away from the transmission lines. And I'm just going to do this green area. And you can see, holy cow, it's a lot of pictures, Coitt. Why is it taking so many pictures? I don't need that many. Well, the reason why is that this is only flying at 150 feet. So if I want my aircraft not to take not so many pictures, right? I don't want it to it doesn't need to be that granular. I can increase my altitude. I also can decrease my overlaps. So I can come in here and hit overlaps and decrease my overlaps, which means that the overlapping of the camera images won't be as tight, and that is going to it will pull back from your resolution a little bit, but it will also allow you to fly that entire area in a much faster time. So you kind of give and take. You've got this area here where you can actually come in and do 3D models. So I can just turn that on. And now if we had an area that we were wanting to really focus on and I needed to, I wanted a 3D image here, I could increase my overlaps, turn on my 3D mode, and then it will end up flying each of these waypoints and taking pictures at each of these little white dots. So we do not, at this time, we do not do any photogrammetry processing. You can use Pix4D React, which absolutely love. It's super fast. It works offline. So if you don't have any data, you don't have any tie back to the world with data connection, it will do everything remotely. So we use Pix4D React, we've used Pix4D, we have Mapper, and then in the Austin Fire Department, we also use Drone Deploy. So there are some other companies out there that have some really great products that you may want to look into, but the bottom line is you have to catch the fish to be able to provide it to these mapping engines, and it will cook, they'll prepare that fish for you and serve back a nice map, but you have to be able to collect those images. And this is the way to do it here, staying within this system. Now, Drone Deploy has its own mapping collection or intelligent mapping feature set. Pix4D has Pix Capture. those all work exceptionally well because they're built into the system that you're mapping, but you do not get you're unable to gather the history and get the flight times. And if you have an event, you won't have any archive data unless you're using DroneSense, because this is our system of record. Everything that we're doing here is being recorded. If you go outside of that and you're using Drone Deploy, it's going to take all the images for a great map, but you're not going to have the data and the telemetry recorded in DroneSense to be able to use later on. The order of action is super simple. It's add to plan. I'm going to go up and hit my play button up at the top. I'm going to hit go now, and it's going to begin to operate. So that is Flight Planning 101. I'll tell you guys, I was scared to death to start playing with all these. I was afraid I was going to screw up things. And then once I got out and I started actually just using these features and practicing, it just was really great. Don't be afraid to get out here and try this. Just know that if you get into a problem, you have, and I'm going to show you a few things here. You have a few features on here. So within the screen itself, you'll have a pause button that will come right underneath your alarm indicator. But guys, always know that you can break radio connection with your controller. Okay. Never forget this feature. So if you're doing a waypoint, you're like, oh crap, I got to stop it. And for some reason your finger's wet, you got boogers on it, you can't press the screen to hit the pause button, grab your controller. You have a pause button on your controllers. You also have the ability on these, like this Mavic here, where you can toggle back and forth your flight plan. So this says TPS on it. You can toggle back and forth, and that is going to break the connection that you have programmed into your system. So you'll immediately take control. Use that over and over again. Get your teams to practice that way. So if you are, say you're out flying, the drone is returning back to home, at a wrong altitude, you're worried about it hitting a building, take positive control of it just by breaking the connection on your drone controller, hitting the pause button and making it stop. That is a feature that's built in here. It's a safeguard, and it's something that is really important to practice. All right. So nothing too exciting here on the indicators, but you guys do need to pay attention to that, especially if you're working and you have like magnetic interference or you need a compass calibration. It's going to end up showing you that information here. If you have aircraft threats, it will show you this here, IMU problems, all the indications that may keep your drone from operating. You'll end up finding that here underneath your alarm or notifications. If I come up to my GPS, you'll see that I have my sat count, my GPS locks. It'll end up giving me my lat and long. This is my drone connection. So this is red, yellow, green. It's super simple for us knuckle draggers. If we are working and our drones are getting away from us, it's going to start showing yellow. And when it becomes red, you know that you got problems and you're going to end up having to bring that drone back, or it's going to have a lost link connection. It's going to come back on its own. This is a your data connection that's going to show right here. And guys, again, this is just, I'm throwing in some lessons learned that we've had. Is if you have the ability not to use your cell phone as a hotspot, right? Because this cell phone, everybody wants to call you, everyone wants to know what's going on. If you can find a dedicated hotspot for your aircraft, you are going to maximize the ability of your streaming ability back to your EOC. You're going to maximize the ability of this thing to operate at a level that you need it to operate. And that could be using a cellular enabled iOS device, like a tablet, like a cellular iPad. That would work really well. Having a Wi-Fi puck, really good. But remember, as soon as you guys start tying into your phones as devices, and that may be all you have, your phone is going to be competing with taking cellular data in and sending a Wi-Fi signal out for you to be able to operate from. So it ends up getting a little bit messy with the RF. With that being said, I've seen this a lot when we go out, is make sure that if you are going out on an op, let's say you're at the incident command and you've put your hotspot down next to your incident command vehicle or next to the boss you're working with, and you walk off to go up to the Alpha side of the structure or the Charlie side of the structure, or if you guys are walking with the ground team going searching for somebody, you're in the back of the Bearcat, you guys name the scenario, make sure you bring that with you, because your screen is going to look really good to you, because you're going to have this direct connect with your drone. But when you're working on streaming the information back to command, it's going to look like garbage. So just that's just a homie hookup there, is make sure that you have your data connection with you wherever you travel. That's very important. Now we have checklist. I always like to talk to people about this being a public safety aviation program, not a drone program, not a drone project. This is a public safety aviation program. For those aviators that we have on the call, you guys know that safety is first, right? It is safety, 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 safety. You're talking to the FAA, it's safety, 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 safety. So in aviation, checklists are very normal. And with that, we have the checklist built into it. Now you guys can modify that checklist. You can launch without checking that off. But if you do launch without your checklist, you're going to end up finding that the aircraft will register as a no checklist. So you will, if you have an incident, or if you guys get called to the carpet by Joe Citizen, and they ask you about your flight logs, it will actually show that you did not do your checklist. So it's very important to do your checklist. Number one, for safety. Number two, for liability. This is going to be your battery, battery on your drone, battery for my situation, my iPad. I'm going to click on here, which is going to show the mission that I'm operating from. That's kind of important whenever I've got a radio on me and I'm saying, hey guys, we're all going to be under DroneSense training ops, or hey, we're all going to be under City of Austin UAS operations. So we're all working together underneath the same mission. This is my obstacle avoidance. This is where I get to my settings. And within my settings, Mike Christie, you were asking about going in and adjusting my GPS cords. So right here, where you say coordinate format, I'm just going to click that, and you can end up seeing all the different cords that you can end up setting here. So these, if you set it here, and you're looking under these flight planning, when you look at flight planning, those are the cords that you're going to end up seeing on the intelligent flight planning. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it does.
Right on. Okay, guys. So then we work our way down the menu here. You're going to see just everything you would see if you're using DJI. There'd be three little dots up here in the right-hand corner. Well, those are your settings. And this is the exact same settings, or most of it, I should say, that you would end up finding within the DJI app or Autel app or Anafi. So if you're coming in and you need to compass calibrate, you can do that within DroneSense. You don't have to go into the native app to be able to make that happen. If you want to adjust your obstacle avoidance, it's all done here. If I want to turn on my lights on the underside of my aircraft, I can do that here. If I want to hit my beacon, I can do it from here. Now, there is an area I'm going to show you where you can turn on your beacon on the screen, on the operation screen, but that's all enabled here. If you want to go discrete and turn off all your LEDs, this is the area that you do it. So this is all found underneath the settings menu. Just below the settings menu, you guys are going to find, I'm going to click that again, and you're going to find the camera settings. Now, this is a Mavic 2 Dual. It's not the greatest aircraft, unfortunately. It does not have a great camera on it. In Austin, when we do a lot of flying downtown Austin, with protests and all the other activities that we have going on there, we really depend on our cameras' low light abilities, right? Being able to use low lighting to be able to send information back. You guys can use the thermals the thermal palettes right here. You can use thermal, but when you're downtown and you're working in an urban environment, or if you're out looking for an Alzheimer's patient, again, with blue jeans, red shirt, white sneakers, it's really hard to just use thermal. You need to be able to use your cameras, right? And the way that we can open up your exposures and your apertures are all right here. So this is the area in which you guys will end up manually adjusting your settings for your aircraft's camera systems. Does that make sense? All righty. I'm going to go to our screen here, and we're going to dig into these little pills that are here on the side. This is a Mavic 2 Dual, as mentioned. So I've got a few different feature settings that are on here. I have my my zoom, which I can adjust with my scroll wheel, zooming in and out. I can tap my iOS screen, my iPad screen, and I can do it manually here, zooming in and out. If I want to go to, let me just reset that. There it goes. All right. So I'm bringing it back out. I'm going to tap on my thermal capabilities here. Hit my screen again. I think my screen is locked up. And you guys will see now that I have the ability to now use my thermal settings all off the top here, which is super great. If I want to go for isotherms, so looking for particular heat temperatures, this is going to end up being my presetting, my far field focus. So if I'm trying to correct the my temps, this is where I'm going to calibrate it. If I would like to zero in my my thermal camera, this is where I would do it at. And if I would like to turn on any of my additional equipment, being in this situation, I have the Enterprise, so I'm able to use a beacon. I have a speaker, and then there's also the lamp, the spotlight. That is all found here underneath this little pill button or underneath your settings. So that makes it pretty nice and pretty easy. Again, should not be very different from what you guys are used to using with any of your aircraft at home. It should feel the same. I'm going to stress again the importance with this of going into your map feature and creating layers if you can. So I went ahead and created some layers on the web app. These are our search areas in my neighborhood. So I just dropped some helibases or some LZs, created these zones. I went ahead and put in some transmission power lines, which literally are running right across that road there. And I have the ability now to come in and use these intelligent flight planning features, the waypoint, the orbit, and the flight planning. Guys, when you're going out and doing your training as a team, build this out. I mean, create, as a suggestion, create, like this could be your next training is, hey guys, I want you to put a pin, show me how you put a pin on the map using a marker. And then once you put that marker, I want you to tell us what those chords are. Now I want you to, that's like step one. Now you move to the next station. Next station, somebody just dropped a pin on the map. Now I want you to go over and fly over there. And once you fly to it, I want you to set up an orbit and then return back to your base. There's a second rotation. Hey, third rotation, I want you to climb to 400 feet and I want you to do an aerial mapping. We're going to simulate using this for pre-planning of a large musical event or large scale sporting event that's coming up. I need you to map this. That's, I mean, 4 stations immediately that you guys can knock out in training. And that can all be done using your pilot app. And it can be done using multiple aircraft because, again, you guys are all flying underneath the same mission here. And if you're working with your neighboring agencies, which we highly recommend, I mean, Chris Lester with EMS, this is what we love doing. We will show up together and we provide each other our mission codes, and then we begin operating as a unit, and his aircraft show up here, our aircraft show up here, and then we just start deconflicting the airspace, separating them with altitude and locations, and we immediately go to working together. And that's just a training event that knocks it out for us. So with that, then I think we'll sign off. Really appreciate everybody's time. It's man, it's neat to see. It's so cool to see where we're at today and the questions that are being asked versus us just a couple of years ago talking about what ifs and, you know, what could we do with these things. You guys are out in the middle of it right now, and this is really wonderful. So with that, I'm going to sign off and say I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.